All right, thank you everyone for your patience. We are back on the record. I entertain a motion for the board panel to return to regular session.
Should we go back into regular session?
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The board panel is now back in regular session. Following deliberation on license number R 860353, the board panel renders the following. License is revoked with drug-related recommendations to include evaluation for chemical dependency, substance abuse, psychiatric, psychological evaluation. A copy of this order will be forwarded to the licensee within 30 to 45 days. Barring any questions, you are excused.
She's muted.
If you're trying to speak, Ms. Jones, we can't hear you.
Right.
Hey, okay, I just want to make sure I understand. So it is revoked pending something, or it's revoked and there's no possible way to have it reversed? I'm confused.
Okay, yes, ma'am, it is revoked. There will be drug-related recommendations that will be explained in the order. Once you receive a copy of that order, you will have a year from the date of that order to come back before the board to petition for your fitness to practice.
Okay, once I complete the recommended things, then I'll come back.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. The next matter before the board panel regarding a restoration, license number R 857290 APRN. Any preliminary matters, council?
Yes, we do have exhibits to be admitted and the swearing in of witnesses. The state at this time would move exhibits B1 through B9 be admitted into the record.
Respondent has no objections. Excuse me, petitioner has no objections.
And I'm sorry, Mercier?
Yes, I'm sorry. My name is Doug Mercier. I'm an attorney. I represent Heather Hillman.
Thank you, sir. Well, since we have noted no objections to those exhibits, they are admitted.
The other item would be just the swearing in of Ms. Hillman.
Okay. Does the state have no witnesses?
None.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Since we are dealing with a restoration here, we will hear opening statements from both parties. Of course, we'll begin with the petitioner. Once we've had an opportunity to hear both arguments, we'll have closing statements. The board will then make its decision regarding findings of fact and conclusions of law. Remind everyone that these hearings are open to the public. Counsel, you may begin with your opening statement.
We're here on Heather Hillman's application for restoration of a nursing license. This goes back to 2017, I believe it's April of 2017, whenever Ms. Hillman lost her ability to practice because she was suspended, but actually it goes back to January of that year, but she was suspended summarily. And then she had a hearing. I think the hearing was in April. This arises out of a mistake, a lapse in judgment, a serious one that she had made. She was arrested and she was indicted and charged with prescription fraud. She complied immediately with Floyd Wiley of the board and the other members of the task force that arrested her. She gave them a statement. She cooperated, did everything they asked her to do. Subsequently, at the hearing, She was found guilty. Hearing at the board, she was found guilty and she was suspended further, longer. She had other penalties that were established for her and things that she should do, which we'll go through in the final order. Additionally, she had criminal charges against her. Those criminal charges have been handled. She went into pretrial diversion. She completed her pretrial diversion, paid the fines. Since then, those charges have been dismissed. And the charges and arrests have been expunged. She was never convicted of any of the charges. She's done everything she's supposed to do. She paid all the fines and all the fees to the state, as well as those that were owed to the board. There was no restitution ordered because there was no one else involved in this matter that was out any money. She, as a part of what she was required to do by the final order of the board, she underwent an assessment by Dr. Marion. Dr. Marion found that she did not have any substance abuse or addiction issues. I think his diagnosis was mild depression. I'm not sure. We'll get to that one. I think that's what it was. He did want her to undergo some therapy for her depression, which she did. And she subsequently, in preparation for this hearing, went back to Dr. Marion and got an updated assessment in August of this year. And once again, no finding of any substance use or addiction issues. And one thing I failed to mention was during the time that she was in the pretrial diversion program, she regularly was tested for drugs, never had a positive drug screen. She's been humbled by this experience in her life. She hasn't been able to practice as a nurse practitioner or a nurse. We did not come back up here before you until now. It's been over 4 years because she was trying to get everything settled with the criminal matter. The criminal matter took longer than it should have for whatever reason. She had a criminal defense lawyer and those things were just stuck in purgatory. Eventually, it was handled and we wanted to get this matter expunged and bring it up to you. And we did it just as soon as we could and get on the docket. In the meantime, Heather has undergone extreme financial hardships. She and her son moved in with her family, her mother. She's taken a job across the street at Dillard's, and she's making substantially less money than she did as a nurse. She has corrected the things in her life. She's overcome her lapse in judgment. She realizes what she's done wrong. She's done everything the board has asked her to do in the final order. And she's here asking for this board to restore her nursing license, her APRN privileges, and her APRN prescription rights as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. May?
Yes, we are here today on the petition of Ms. Hillman. Ms. Hillman did actually agree in an agreed settlement proposal to accept certain penalties and conditions, given the fact she had written multiple unauthorized prescriptions. Those suspensions did include her APRN privilege to practice for 1 year, the suspension of her controlled substance prescriptive authority for 3 years, and her RN license. She agreed that that also would be suspended for 6 months. So the agreed order in which she agreed with these conditions also provided that in order for the suspension to be lifted, that she would have to petition the board and the board would have to hear the evidence and decide whether or not she has met the burden to show that she is fit and competent to practice as a nurse. And I would ask that the state evaluate that testimony and evidence today in light of the burden that Ms. Hillman carries.
All right, thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Mercier, you may begin.
Let me back up. I'm not sure that whenever we had the exhibit submitted, Brett, did we get the restoration packet?
Yes,
B9?
yes, when I say B1 through B9, B9 is that, yes,
I just want to make sure.
yes.
I'd like to call Heather Hillman. Would you state your full name for the record, please?
It is Heather Lee Thornton Hillman.
Heather, where do you live?
I live in Byram, Mississippi with my parents.
How long have you lived there with your parents?
Almost 5 years. Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Point the mic down towards you, pull it closer.
Almost 5 years. Sorry. I live with my parents in Byram and my son, and for almost 5 years, I've been living there.
Heather, we've got a document here that we handed out to the board that looks like this right here. It says application for restoration of personal license. See that?
Yes,
Did you complete this?
yes, I did.
Did you gather the materials?
Yes, I
that are
did.
Part of this?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Heather, you heard about an incident that happened in, I think you were arrested. Tell me, when were you arrested? Do you remember?
2017,
Okay. And
February,
up to that time, you were practicing as a nurse practitioner.
up until, well, my license was suspended in January of 2017. So yes, up until that point.
All right. Tell the board about this incident, what brought about you being charged criminally and having your license suspended, or you agreed to it, as Brett pointed out, in the brief settlement proposal. What brought that about?
I wrote prescriptions to a person that I was having a relationship with. He was not seen in a clinic, and they were narcotic prescriptions that I wrote. That was in 2015, and in December 28th, I believe it was, of 2016, someone from the MBN called me and said that I had to be here the very next day to be questioned.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I came in on my own that morning about 10, and I think I left about 2, and then came back and wrote a written statement after that, admitting to everything that I had done wrong.
Now, in your restoration packet, at the very last tab, the blue tab, number 7, I believe it is. There's some legal documents there. And included towards back, the last 2 pages there are charges that were made against you.
Yes,
Are these charges you referring to? That's what you're
yes, yes. This is, yes, absolutely.
doing? With that, you entered into the pretrial diversion.
Yes, I
program?
did. I was indicted on the 19th of September, and then it was February of 2020 before I actually went to court. And then they entered me into the pretrial diversion, drug diversion program, starting, I believe, in that March of 2020.
And then on the first page under that tab is an order of dismissal.
Mhm.
Do you know how that came about?
Yes, every month I reported to the parole officer at the courthouse.
Probation officer.
Yes, probation, I'm sorry, probation officer. I paid a fine every month until the complete fine was, or I paid a fee until the complete fine was paid. And I also had to report to him, talk to him, and then we also did drug screenings. And then the dismissal, because they said I had completed everything, they dismissed me, I believe, in November. And then, yeah, November, it
All right,
is
so-
November 12th.
Yeah, November 12th, 2020 is the order of dismissal,
Yes,
and then it was later expunged, which is the next page. What is the date of that expungement?
the date is October 6th, 2021.
So that was just over a
Recent,
month ago.
yes, correct.
2 months, basically.
I had to get,
Now,
yes.
once this was dismissed, or at the time of dismissal, I should say, Did you owe any money to the state?
No, I completely paid my fines.
Once you were dismissed, did you have any type of probation or anything?
No, I did not.
So everything's completely.
Everything is completely complete.
Take care of.
Sorry, if I may, please let it finish the question before you answer for our court reporter's benefit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Heather, at the time that you were indicted, or about that time, I guess, what happened to your nursing license? Before you ever
It-
signed the agreed settlement proposal?
It was suspended in January.
That was before any hearing.
That was before any hearing. Yes.
That was January of what year?
13th of 2017. Yes, 17.
Is that the last date that you had the authority to practice as a nurse?
Yes.
As a result of all of this, you had problems on that legal side, but you also had problems here with your license at the board.
Yes.
And as Ms. Thompson May pointed out, you signed an agreed settlement proposal, which was ultimately adopted and the board approved it. And there's a document on tab 2, top blue tab, that says final order. You got that in front of you there? Now, next to that, agreed settlement proposal. If you look and tell us, is that your signature? It's back here on page 6.
Yes, it is.
And that date was what?
April 27th of 2017.
You agreed to penalties in that agreed settlement proposal. Those are set forth on page 3 of that agreed settlement proposal.
Yes.
What were those, in general, what were those penalties?
I paid a fine to the Board of Nursing, which was, I believe, $1,500. I completed documentation ethics legal course. Of course, I had a permanent written record in showing what I had done. I also went for the assessment and completed the 6 months or 6 sessions with him. My license was suspended.
It mentions documentation courses. It
Yes,
mentions
the
several
co-
courses, 3, I think.
Yes, I did ethics course, an ethics and legal course, and a documentation course. 2 of them were online and 1 was in person at Hines. They are completed. And I also did some well, it wasn't in the penalties, but I did some additional CEs.
Have you complied with each of the penalties and requirements of the board in this final order?
Yes, I have.
Let's take a look at your application, which is the very front, tab 1, the top red tab. I'm not sure I asked you, but on page 4 of that, is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
The first page of the application has questions, well, it's part B. It has questions 1 through 8.
Yes.
And, you answered in the negative on those questions, but down there on question number 9, you answered in the affirmative. Could you tell us, could you read that question 9 for the record?
Okay. Have you ever received counseling or treatment connected with the revocation, surrender, suspension, denial of your license?
And you checked yes.
Yes.
Okay, explain that to the board, please.
I did the assessment with Dr. Marion in June, which was completed, and he recommended 6 sessions, 6 months, 1 session a month to do therapy with him, which was completed also in January of 2018.
All right. And in these assessments, for Dr. Marion, you said there were two assessments.
That I had to do, that was ordered.
Well, or one was ordered.
Yes,
And
one
you
was
did
ordered.
another one in conjunction with.
Yes, I
with the
did.
application.
I went ahead and did another one in August on my own. I just wanted to get an updated because it had been 4 years. I wanted an updated assessment from Dr. Marion, which I completed in August of this year.
And just so we're clear on that, I think we mentioned it earlier, but this question 10 does not reflect the assessment, this last one from August of this year that's included.
Correct,
And why not?
because the application was already completed at that time.
All right, let's look. Let's look at part C, which is the continuing education. And it lists some courses there. These, I guess you should tell the board what these courses are, and if they were the courses that were required in the final order.
Yes, these are the ethical course, the documentation course, the ethics of nursing practice, and another one that was recommended to take for these.
Have you provided evidence of your completion of those courses to the board?
Yes, I have.
All right, let's look at the purple tab, which is tab 4. What do we have here?
This is the ethics and legal, yes, ethics and legal issues that was held at Hines Community College in person.
What's the next one?
The next one is ethics, again, that was required.
And what's the next one?
Ethics,
What's after that?
documentation.
All right. Are those the courses that were required by the final order?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, there are additional courses that you've given us certificate of completion for in here. Were those ones you did on your own?
I did these on my own. They were not required.
Part E of the application asks about licensure in other states. You listed Michigan there, and that corresponds with part of what you provided under the yellow tab, which is tab 4, this is. When I look at the yellow tab, it shows an expiration date of March the 31st, 2017 for the Michigan license. Could you tell the board the current status of your Michigan license and how and when you received it?
It's expired. I was applying for a locums job prior to that date in 2016. It took them a really long time to get everything together. And by that point, I had employment with another place. So I never used this license. I've never even been to Michigan.
All right, part F is in your application, lists your employment. And there's also an attachment that goes with it that didn't make it into bound version. We passed that out. And that lists your employment as a nurse covering, well, I guess not just covering what period of time.
From 2004 until present.
since you had your license suspended in January of 2017, where have you worked?
For the first 6 months, I was unable to find employment. Nursing is all I've ever done. So when I did get employment, it was at a consignment shop that was at the end of June. And then I went to work at another retail place, Dillard's, in January of 2018, and I've been there ever since.
Since when?
Since January of 2018, almost 4 years.
All right, the next thing, the application is discussing part H, which is your submission of affidavits. You've got 5 names listed there. The first one listed in that person, well, the affidavits are on the green tab 3. The first one you've got there is from Donald Glenn Pope. How do you know him?
Glenn is, I've known him for almost 20 years. His child and my son or we were pregnant at the same time, not him, but his wife. I've been on 2 medical mission trips with him, and I've known him as my pastor.
For 20 years?
Years. Our kids are 20, yes.
All right, the next one you have listed is Melissa B. Brown. How do you know her?
Melissa, I've known when I worked at Centurion, which was through the prison, a medical center, and she was my nurse supervisor there while I was there, and I've kept up with her since then.
And the next one you got is Melissa Young. How do you know Melissa Young?
And Melissa, I know her more currently because we started working at Dillard's the same time, so I've known her almost 4 years.
And the next one is Laura Horn.
She is a nurse practitioner who actually is practicing as a nurse manager right now. She just took a different job. However, I've known her for several years now, and she actually I worked with her at Mississippi Sports Medicine as a nurse practitioner for like a couple weeks.
The last one you have listed is Barbara Bradley. How do you know her?
I've known her since about, I think, 2012. She's a nurse practitioner who hired me to be a nurse practitioner when I started doing PRN jobs, as needed jobs.
Did you disclose the details of your suspension to these people?
Yes,
They all know about it.
yes.
All right, let's take a look at the 6th tab, which is a red tab near the bottom. Those are 2 assessments from Dr. Marion. The first one is dated June the 5th, 2017. How did you come to Marion Counseling Services?
He was one of the recommended counselors through the board. Had to be board approved.
Now, under addiction use and history, he says client reported an 11-year history of drinking alcohol. She usually drinks 2 glasses of wine once a month. She last drank alcohol on May 28, 2017. Client denied the use of illicit drugs or the abuse of prescription medication. Now, why does he say you had an 11-year history of drinking alcohol?
Because he asked me when I started drinking, which was about 17 years old, but it was an on and off history. There's many years that I didn't drink.
And when you look at his diagnoses, what did he give you?
Adjustment disorder with depressed mood. He said he thought I had some anxiety and depression due to loss of my career job at that time.
All right, let's flip on over to the most current assessment for former Dr. Marion. And what does he say there for the current site diagnostic, excuse me, let me back up. Let me find it, the diagnoses.
Adjustment disorder with depressed mood.
In partial remission.
Yes,
All right, and what does he recommend on the last page?
it is recommended that I, Board of Nursing for possible reinstatement of my license and his, to do quarterly outpatient mental health counseling sessions for 1 year from the date of this evaluation.
But again, he did not find anything as far as a substance use disorder.
No, he did not.
Through all of this, how much would you estimate that it cost you to pay in fines and fees to either the nursing board or the state of Mississippi?
$5,000 to $7,000 without legal fees.
And you probably haven't thought about it, but maybe you have. If you looked at how much lost income is represented there, how many years of lost income as a nurse practitioner you're looking at?
5.
Remember the witness?
Ms. Hillman.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hey.
Couple of questions for you. You were licensed as an RN initially, January 30th, 1998. Does that sound about right?
Yes,
And then you were able to obtain an APRN license October 1st, 2004.
yes,
So is it fair to say then you were practicing about 16 years as an APRN before the incident occurred?
yes,
Okay. And you testified that you did complete all the stipulations within the final order dated April 27, 2017, correct?
yes,
And you supplied documentation of the ethics, legal aspects, documentation courses, among many others, but the one specified in the order.
yes, ma'am. Mhm.
And you also paid your fine June 12th, 2017. Does that sound about right?
Sounds right, yes. Mhm.
Okay, so I want to go back to your application and ask a question about that. And specifically, I would like to go to part G. Part G just states professional rehabilitation activities. And it just states, yes. Oh, sorry, the first tab under the application, the red one, first red. Part G. It states there, professional rehabilitative activities, and it asks you to list any professional related rehabilitation activities that you've done to address the action which resulted in the loss of your license. And so can you explain why you left that particular section blank?
I didn't really know what to put there. I just, that's the only reason it's blank.
Okay. Going back to the conduct, because you did agree, based upon your testimony here, you did sign the agreed order agreeing that you had inappropriately prescribed and had unprofessional conduct in how you were practicing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so going to that, I guess the ultimate question as it relates to part G is how can you convince the board that what you did then you won't do now if they give you that opportunity to practice?
Right. Like he said, it's just humbled me. I had very poor judgment. I feel like I was manipulated. I know that's not the greatest answer, but this is something that I've had to sell pretty much everything. My house was sold. I've sold pretty much everything except one storage container that I pay for $100 a month since this all happened. When I do get started again, I live with my parents. My son was also 16 at the time. In fact, it was on his birthday that all this happened. I've got parents that have been affected, myself, my children. I have 2 grandchildren now. Since then, there's been so many people affected by this. I don't know how else to assure you, but this would never happen again, ever, for myself. You know, I had very poor judgment at that time in a relationship with someone that I should not have done what I did. I know what I did wrong. I'm just asking for y'all to give me another chance.
And added to that, what is your understanding of the prescription rules in general as it relates to an APRN license and the Board of Nursing? What's your understanding of the prescription rules? How you are to practice in terms of writing the prescription?
Like seeing a patient in the clinic, having a documented chart.
And when you prescribe a medication, can you take it a step further? What would be required of you then?
An assessment and history of the patient seen in the clinic, not to be in a relationship with that person, a fully documented chart, and whether or not they refer or bring back to see in the clinic.
And what is the current status of your national certification?
It's like not renewed right now due to I wasn't practicing at the time.
Right. And it's, so you would have to go through that process again, should the board.
What?
allow-
Yes. Mhm.
And it's your testimony, you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. I'm willing to do whatever. I've done all of this. Yes, absolutely.
And do you have any prospective employment, again, should the board consider allowing you to work?
I have a couple of people that say they have jobs, so I'll see. I'm just been waiting on this day.
Sure. And you can appreciate, I'm sure,
Yes.
that it's been quite some time since you
Um,
practiced.
Yes, it has.
And we've
Mhm.
been in a global pandemic,
Yes, we have.
so there's been lots of changes.
Absolutely.
So with that, certainly you wouldn't be opposed to doing whatever the board asks of you.
Correct.
Education,
Education.
maybe remedial courses like an APRN orientation.
Yes. Mhm.
Because you would also then, if the board allowed you to move forward, you got to take the next step, not only with national certification, but with the DEA as well.
Yes,
Because
right.
You did lose that
I did.
in
Mhm.
2016.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And if the board decided to provide you the opportunity to work towards getting that APRN license back, not even initially, let's just say they wanted to do something different, but initially allow you to obtain that APRN after you complete certain conditions, would you be agreeable to that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go into your assessments. And I believe that tab is the number 6 tab. The second assessment.
Yes.
Okay, where Dr. Marion or Mr. Marion, Dr. Marion,
Mhm.
that last page of the second assessment. So it's going to be the very last page within that section. Recommendations.
Yes.
He states that it would be recommended you participate in quarterly outpatient mental health counseling for 1 year.
Yes.
That's right. That,
Yes, that's what he stated. Yes.
have you made any movement there with regard to his recommendation?
Not yet. This just happened in August and I was waiting to get here.
But would it be your testimony then that you are going to complete it, or what is your?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right. And you have a place in mind where you might do that?
Yeah, I'll probably just use him again because he knows me. He knows my story.
He mentions here in the assessment, he testified to this, that he did not find you to have a probability with substance use disorder. Would you agree with me? there?
Correct, yes.
He did mention, though, that you are taking some medications due to migraine headaches.
Yes,
And I'm looking specifically, Ms. Hillman, it's going to be page 3 of 4 on that second assessment.
okay. Okay,
You with me there?
yes. Mhm.
So what are the medications you're taking?
I take topiramate for migraines to help control them. And I take thyroid medicine for my hypothyroid. Mhm.
Do you see the same provider for both?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
Morgan Miller.
And you've been seeing this individual for quite a while?
Not a long time. I was trying to get closer to my home. And so she's down the road.
So give or take, how long have you been seeing this one?
A year, probably. Mhm.
Because I also noted in the first assessment that you did with Dr. Marion in 2017, he mentioned some of the same issues with the migraines,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I've had them for a long time. Mhm.
Okay. Ms. Hillman, is there anything else you'd like to express to this board panel?
I'm just asking, I'm thankful that I'm here finally. I'm just asking for y'all to give me another chance to renew my license, and I'm willing to do whatever. I've done all of this so far, so I'm willing to do whatever needs to be done.
No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any questions for Ms. Hilbert from the board panel?
Just have one question.
Hey,
Who is your national certified body?
AACN. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Anything else from the board panel? Can you redirect Mr. Mercier?
Just one question. Heather, you were just asked some questions about the unprofessional conduct that you pled to in the settlement proposal and final order. There's no question about what you did at that time in your life. Right?
Right.
Before that happened, was there anything else in your life similar to that had occurred?
No,
What about since that day?
no,
The people that know you, well, you yourself,
Mhm.
was this something that was out of character for you?
very out of character.
Now, you were asked about, I guess, two questions.
Go ahead.
You were asked about giving assurance to this board. I think you have testified this has caused you great economic hardships. What has it done to you inside?
Mentally, and like with Dr. Marion, when he said I had adjustment mood disorder, depression, anxiety due to my loss of career and loss of job. This is all I've ever done all my life. And I want to get back to it. missing things in my life.
One more question.
All right, thank you.
I think the testimony that the board has heard today demonstrates compelling evidence that the petitioner, Heather Hillman, has demonstrated grounds for removal of the suspension of her license and for full restoration of her RN license and NP privileges, along with the APRN prescriptive authority. She made a mistake. We all make mistakes. I don't think there's anybody in life that's never made a mistake. We learn from our mistakes. We pay for our mistakes. Heather has paid for her mistake. She paid dearly. She paid with her license with this board. She paid through the criminal procedures. She paid out of her pocketbook. She paid with her pride. She's paid, she's learned. The only way you ever know if somebody has learned from their mistake is to give them another opportunity, another chance. She's not done anything to demonstrate she shouldn't be entitled to that. I think she's done quite the opposite. From the get-go, she's been cooperative with the investigator of the board and with the NBN and anybody else. She's not resisted us. She has not claimed that she didn't do it. She's complied fully. She's done absolute everything that she's been asked to do. And she's back to this board, like it says in the final order, requesting that these suspensions be lifted and that her license and NP privileges and prescriptive authority be restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May.
Yes, we are here on the petition of Ms. Hillman. Ms. Hillman does have a complete restoration packet. Ms. Hillman has completed all requirements within the April 2017 order. The question just remains, what will the panel decide as it relates to providing those privileges back to Ms. Hillman? You heard the testimony, you've seen the evidence before you today. And so should the board decide to restore and lift suspension of the licenses and privileges, the state would just ask and consider the time frame by which she hasn't practiced and perhaps provide guidance as to how she would best be able to be fit and competent and protect our public through that process.
All right, thank you, counsel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motion carries unanimously. I entertain a motion for the board panel to exit to executive session for deliberation on this matter.
Executive session to deliberate on.
Been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. The board will now exit to executive session. We will return as a decision in this matter.